Hello, Haunted Family. Welcome back. Story 1. Footsteps. A few years ago, I set out to tape record the spring sounds in my isolated village for some listening pleasure in the depths of a cold winter. There was no breeze. There were no dogs or people in the house or anywhere around it. I went into my den to correct a batch of papers after I had set the tape recorder out on my concrete deck of my 3-story house. After at least an hour, I remembered that I had done so, and I went out to rewind the tape and give it a listen. My first impression was that it must have taken a long time for me to walk from the deck to the office door, a distance of maybe 10 yards at most. Then I realized that the recorder had picked up, throughout its 45-minute length, a very steady, unfrightening, but definite pattern of footsteps walking along the second-story porch. That porch is over 100 feet long. The sound intensified and diminished as the walker went from one end to the other. I heard nothing in my completely silent room where I was doing my work, but the tape recorder had. Oddly enough, it was not in the least frightening or bizarre. The steps seemed completely natural and unhurried, but distinctly human, 2-stepped footsteps. They almost sounded comforting to me. Story 2. The Victorian. About 2 years ago, I lived in an old Victorian house with a huge history. Supposedly the whole family that lived there before had died from gas poisoning. But in the police report, there was no traces of leaking gas. About 2 months after we moved in, I started to hear sobbing down in the basement. The door to the basement was right next to my living room. Me being the only one in my family who stays up past midnight, watching corny monster movies on late night TV, was of course the only one who really heard it. So one night I'm watching a Godzilla movie, and I start hearing the sound again. Being brave, or stupid, I decided to go down to the basement to see what the noise is. When I got down there, it was all foggy and gassy-like, smoky. I saw a huge, horribly disfigured thing. All I could do there was stand there scared. I couldn't move. I muttered something like a prayer for protection under my breath, and it disappeared. I ran back upstairs. But we had other weird things happen in this house. That might be a story for another day. Story 3. The Skeptic Story. I have believed in ghosts for as long as I can remember. I'm not sure why. I've never seen a ghost or had any major experiences with any. I'm the exception in my family. My mom thinks the subject is fascinating, but she doesn't believe in them. My sisters have flat out ridiculed me for my belief in the supernatural. Funny thing is, all 3 of these skeptics have had experiences with ghosts. One evening I was home alone with my sister Janet. I was taking a nap in my room when she walked in to get something out of my closet. When she walked out, she left the light on in my closet and my door open. I hate having my closet door open. I yelled at her, half asleep, to come back in and turn the light out and shut the door. The light went out, and I said, "Thank you." She yelled back, "For what? I didn't turn the light out." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." She insisted that she had never touched it. She says when she got halfway down the hallway, the light went out. Since I was mostly asleep when it happened, I thought I was dreaming. But she reminded me that I woke up. My sister Amy was in my room once after I'd moved out. She saw a small cloud out of the corner of her eye. She looked at it, thinking our mom must be burning incense in there. But there was no fire, no source of smoke. Then it started to grow into a full-length apparition. She freaked out and ran out of the room. I don't think she's seen anything since. Shortly before one Halloween, I had some Christmas lights hanging in my room. They had burned out and I hadn't taken them down yet. I had unplugged them though. One morning, I got up really early for school. Nobody else was up. I went to get breakfast. When I came back to my room, the lights were plugged in and they were working. I thought it was really strange. That same day, I was on the phone with a friend all evening. It was really cold out. Suddenly, my mom comes into my room, looking really freaked out. She asks, "Weren't you just outside?" I said, "No, it's freezing." She told me that she had been in the kitchen doing dishes when she heard a knock at the back door. She turned and saw me looking at her through the window of the door. She thought it was really weird for me to be out there because it was so cold. She didn't think I was out there in the first place. By the time she made it to the door to let me in, I was gone. So she walked around outside looking for me, but there's no sign of anyone having been there. My mom swears to this day that she saw me outside on the porch looking in. No one in my neighborhood even remotely resembles me. But there I was, smiling at her through the door. How was that? Maybe it was my doppelganger, because not long after that incident, I was almost killed in an accident. Maybe we're reading too much into that, but that's the only thing we've managed to think of so far. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to, leave me a comment. I really do love to hear from you. And as always, thanks for listening. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.